February 4th, 2019, a Wednesday, a villager called the police to report a shocking discovery: a human foot found in the bushes of a small nearby forest. The foot seemed to belong to a boy around 12 or 13 years old. The police quickly arrived at the scene and took the foot into custody. Upon further investigation, they identified it as belonging to Mangesh Patil, a 12-year-old boy from a nearby village who'd been missing for 2 days. The discovery raised troubling questions. Who could have inflicted such horrific violence on young Mangesh Patil, and why? The incident sent a wave of fear throughout the village, with parents becoming increasingly protective, refusing to let their children play outside. At first, villagers speculated that the incident might be linked to black magic or witchcraft. However, when the real truth came to light, it shocked not just the villagers, but also Mangesh Patil's family. This case became one of the most sensitive and gripping stories of 2019, filled with elements of suspense, thriller, and drama. So let's delve into the beginning and uncover the dark truths hidden in this story. The reality is that this story begins in a small village called Chahadi in Yalgaon, Maharashtra, where a small poor family lived. The family consisted of 4 members: Ganesh Patil, his mother Gita Bai, and his father Dagdusheth, who worked as a laborer to provide for his family. It's important to note that some close relatives of theirs also lived in the same village. On February 2nd, 2019, a Saturday, Mangesh Patil got a half-day off from school. As a result, he returned home earlier than usual. Upon arriving, he told his mother that he was going outside to relieve himself. Now, as you might know, in rural areas, many people still go outside for such purposes, so Mangesh went outside as well. Meanwhile, his mother waited, thinking he would return soon to have his meal, as he had just come back from school. But the wait never ended. As time passed, his mother initially thought he might have gone to play with his friends and would return by evening. However, as the evening approached, there was still no sign of him. His father, who was also working as a laborer, they returned home as the sun was setting. But unfortunately, Mangesh Patil did not return. Mangesh's mother then told his father everything, explaining that Mangesh hadn't come back yet. The two of them began asking the neighbors, but no one knew anything about Mangesh, causing the entire village to become increasingly worried. As the investigation continued, the wait grew longer, but there was still no trace of Mangesh. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Mangesh Patil's father and the villagers decided to file a missing person report at the police station. The disappearance of a 12-year-old boy was not a trivial matter, so the police quickly took action and began their investigation. They first questioned the locals, but nothing significant was discovered, only that Mangesh had been seen on the afternoon of February 2nd. The police were puzzled, wondering where a 12-year-old boy could have gone. If he had been around 16 or 20 years old, they might have considered the possibility of him running away due to a romantic relationship, but that didn't seem likely in this case. The entire day and night of February 3rd passed in the investigation, and then the morning of February 4th began. On the other hand, Mangesh Patil's family, especially his mother, was in a terrible state, crying uncontrollably. His close relatives living in the same village tried to comfort her, assuring her that Mangesh would be found soon. The entire village was also deeply concerned about Mangesh, because he was a very sweet boy who participated in every bhajan and kirtan, devotional singing, held in the village. As February 4th unfolded, someone in a small forest near the village noticed a foot sticking out from the bushes. When the person approached, They were shocked to find that it was just a right foot with no body attached. Upon closer inspection, it appeared to belong to a 12-13-year-old boy. The locals began to suspect that it might be Mangesh's foot. They quickly informed the police, and the news reached Mangesh's family, worsening their already dire situation. His mother, who had been holding on to a small hope that Mangesh would return home soon, was devastated, as even that hope was shattered by this news. However, it was still difficult to say for certain whether the foot belonged to Mangesh, as there was no concrete evidence yet. It was possible that the foot could belong to someone else. So the police were now faced with the challenge of figuring out if this foot was indeed Mangesh's. It's possible that the other body parts might also be nearby. So the rest of the team began searching the area, and during this search they found the remaining body parts, although the head was missing. The condition of the body was very poor. Even so, Mangesh's family was called to the scene, and after identifying some clothing and marks on the body parts, Mangesh's family confirmed that it was indeed their son, Mangesh. At this point, it was clear that Mangesh had left this world, ending the search for him and beginning the search for the person responsible for this heinous act. However, the condition in which Mangesh was found suggested that the perpetrator might have been involved in black magic or occult practices. This theory was further supported because, at that time, after a gap of 27 years, Mauni Amavasya, a significant no-moon night, was at its peak, a time believed to be highly favorable for those who offer sacrifices to spirits and seek to enhance their powers. Now, how much truth there is in this belief, I'm not discussing that. I'm just sharing what people believed at that time. As I mentioned earlier, Mangesh was a very simple, devout boy. Looking at the case from another angle, one might consider that someone could have kidnapped Mangesh for ransom. But this was unlikely, because Mangesh came from a very poor family, and his family had no enemies who might commit such an act. Since there seemed to be no other angles, the villagers started associating the incident with black magic and witchcraft. On the other hand, the police were conducting their investigation with full sincerity, but unfortunately, they were not finding any clues or evidence to solve the case. As you know, CCTV cameras are rarely found in rural areas. However, by chance, there was a jeweler's shop in the village, and a CCTV camera was installed outside that shop. Before reviewing this footage, the police had also relied on their search dogs. They had first taken their well-trained dog to the crime scene, where they let it roam freely. The dog sniffed around and eventually stood outside the victim's house, Mangesh Patil's home. This confused both the police and the onlookers, as no one could understand what the dog was trying to indicate. The process was repeated, and again, the dog stood outside the same house. The police deduced that the dog was trying to indicate that this was the victim's home. The police then collected all the footage from the jeweler's shop dated February 2nd, hoping to find something useful. As they reviewed the footage, they noticed something strange. A beggar was seen wandering around the area for about an hour or two. What stood out was that the bundle the beggar was carrying appeared unusually heavy and suspicious. This raised the police's suspicion that Mangesh could be in that bundle. Although the beggar's face wasn't clearly visible in the footage, the police had a skilled artist create a sketch based on what they could see. They announced throughout the village that anyone who could provide information about this beggar would receive a substantial cash reward. Days passed, but the police made no progress in solving the case. The investigation team then gathered for a meeting to review what they had done and what they might have missed. They realized that the search dog had consistently indicated Mangesh's home, yet they had not thoroughly investigated the house or its surroundings. The police then decided to search Mangesh's home and the surrounding area, but unfortunately, they found nothing. They began to consider investigating the family members, who they were, what they did, and who visited their home. They questioned the villagers about the family's activities, and during this process, one person's name came up: Samadan Patil. It was mentioned that Samadan Patil frequently visited Mangesh's house. Without delay, the police summoned Samadan Patil for questioning. They asked him why he visited the house so often and what his relationship with the family was. Samadan responded that Mangesh's parents were his maternal uncle and aunt, so he visited them regularly. He argued that it was natural for him to visit their home frequently since they lived in the same village. This response didn't provide any new leads, but the police decided to keep an eye on Samadan Patil. After monitoring him, it became clear that Samadan Patil only visited his aunt's house during specific times. When his uncle is out of the house and his two children are at school, this behavior raises questions about why he does this. On the basis of suspicion, he is picked up and now interrogated with force. The police shoot an arrow in the air, and the arrow hits the right target. They tell Samadan Patil that they have found out how and why he committed this act, meaning why he killed Mangesh Patil. It would be better if he tells the truth himself. Hearing this, Samadan Patil gets very scared and reveals a bitter truth that will leave everyone stunned. Moving forward, Samadan Patil tells a horrifying story involving three main people: himself, his friend Rajendra Patil, and Mangesh Patil's mother, Getabai. I know you might be shocked to hear this, and perhaps none of you guessed that his mother could be involved. Moving forward, he tells that he used to visit his uncle and mother's house normally. Initially, I mentioned that his relatives live in the same village, so keep that in mind. Keep in mind that his nephew also lived in the same village, so he used to visit his house regularly. Then he found out that his uncle often went to work, leaving his aunt alone at home, and the children went to school. So, his visits continued, and gradually, due to loneliness, they both forgot their main relationships and came so close that they started having an illicit relationship without even realizing it. One day, Samadan Patil casually told his friend Rajendra Patil that he visits his uncle's house and enjoys with his aunt when she is alone. He explained it in such a way that it aroused a desire in Rajendra Patil's mind. He became restless and asked Samadan Patil to arrange something for him too. Then Samadan Patil talked to his aunt, saying that his friend also wanted to do the same with her, and asked if she had any objection. His aunt agreed, and now Rajendra Patil also started visiting Getabai's house, along with Samadan Patil. Sometimes they went together, and sometimes separately. This continued for a long time, without anyone knowing, not even her husband. After a long time, on Saturday, February 2nd, 2019, Mangesh Patil got a half-day leave and came home. After that, he tells his mother that he is going to the toilet and leaves. Meanwhile, Rajendra Patil comes to his house. Now, who is Rajendra Patil? I think you might have forgotten, so let me tell you that he is Samadan Patil's friend. You can understand why he came to his house. Then they both start their activity. However, Mangesh Patil's mother had forgotten that her son, Mangesh Patil, had returned from school and had gone outside to use the toilet. He could come back home at any time. She hadn't even locked the door properly. It was just ajar, and they got involved in their activity. Now Mangesh Patil also finishes using the toilet and comes back home. He opens the door from outside. and what he sees, you can understand. The poor boy couldn't even comprehend what was happening before Rajendra Patil, in a panic, picked up a stick lying nearby and hit him on the head, knocking him unconscious. Mangesh Patil was already finished. After stuffing him in a sack, his mother first calls Samadhan Patil, her nephew. He also comes and is told about the entire incident. They include him in their plan to finally get rid of the body. When it gets quite late, and the village atmosphere becomes a bit quiet, and with the winter setting in, when no one is around, the two of them, along with his mother, take the sack to a jungle area. There, with a sharp weapon, they cut the body into small pieces and scatter them around. After hearing this story, every villager was stunned that this was the same woman, the same mother, who was crying so much a few days ago over the loss of her child, acting so much. However, it was all just acting. So, friends, that was today's crime story. This incident teaches us that in today's world, you never know who might become your enemy and take your life until the moment arrives. So, be careful. If you liked the video, please like it. And if you want to see more such videos, subscribe to the channel.